tomorrow I fly to San Diego to start the Pacific Crest Trail. I can't believe it's finally here. After not being able to get a visa appointment, to having to fly to Perth for a visa appointment, finishing my bachelor's degree early, having to ship all my gear. But it's finally here.
We are officially in San Diego.
My bag is as full as it has ever been. And I think I'm gonna have some troubles carrying it, to be honest. Starting the PCT! Hi, I'm Courtney, and as you've probably gathered, this year, 2022, I'm hiking the Pacific Crest Trail.
This is Courtney's first camping trip.
Most people who take on the PCT are driven by a great why, but for me, this adventure simply felt like a natural progression, a challenge that could teach me about myself, a chance to evolve and be humbled all at the same time. And because I so clearly love being on camera, I thought I'd better share it with you too.
In a little while. Let's have a look at the video.
So here we go. Hey guys, what's that?
Hello. It's the
A sign! A sign. This would be the first of thousands of PCT markers we would see over the next 4 months.
Shit, 1 mile. Oh my god.
And yes, the first of 2,650 miles we would walk from the Mexican to the Canadian border. Day 1 had us giddy-leg preschoolers, hoping we'd make some new friends, learn some big lessons, and of course have a tasty lunch. After all, the weight of our packs would be dependent on how much food we could eat in any one sitting. Which, for the first week, was surprisingly little. With as much as 5 litres of water in our packs, we began the slow crawl through the heat of the desert until we finally made it to Julian. Free pie! Woo! With bellies full of pie from the famous Mum's Bakery and an impromptu performance from one of Julian's string bands, we continued on. San Jacinto felt like we'd walked into a different world, seeing snow in the desert for the first time.
Hey.
Oh, hi! I hobbled my way through this section. A pre-existing knee injury made me worried I might not even make it through the first part of the trail. So we came off Jacinto a couple of days ago and thought we'd been making great progress down in a valley all day. We just came around a corner and who's that over there? Ah, Jacinto. Fantastic. There are many moments like this in the desert. Days spent weaving through valleys, climbing up and over ridge lines, just to find that you had done one big loop. But the milestones start coming, and with each new town, a momentum begins. One of the milestones we were particularly looking forward to was the only McDonald's on the PCT route. Woo! Fuck you, McDonald's K and Pass. Closed on the one day. We were pretty deflated after this, but after the long, hot climb out of Cajon Pass, we were treated to our very first trail magic.
No, we
I thought you guys might have gotten ahead because you started.
Is Courtney about to go for her first hitch?
Hitching is a super confronting part of thru hiking, and something I was definitely nervous to do.
Nah, it's not trustworthy enough.
But there comes a point where you have to swallow your pride and stick the thumb out. And honestly, I met some of the loveliest people in the process.
Thank you!
Christian nonfiction and get this, there's actually such a thing, Christian supernatural thrillers. So like, I love the Lord and I really like monsters, so now let's put them right together.
When thru hiking a trail like the PCT, it's common that small groups will start to form. They tend to be known as trail families or tramilies. Whilst you spend most of the day hiking alone, it's comforting to know that you'll see the same smelly group of people at lunch or when you get into camp. It takes you by surprise. People on the trail come from all walks of life, from across the world and from different times, but I quickly learned to love this little group, and it began to grow, and grow, and grow. We ended up with 15 people. You can imagine the terror on Trail Angels' faces when our whole group showed up.
What's the time?
8:16.
Interesting. What have you got in your hands?
Oh, just a beer.
Just a beer?
Do you want to see it disappear? Oh, you're kidding. Oh.
And we saw your car pull up and we were like, oh, do you think it's water?
We became more reliant on water caches than ever. Jugs left under trees or on the side of the road and refilled by generous strangers became our lifeline, as we carried up to 30 miles at a time. The heat grew more and more intense until we finally found
Hikertown.
a strange property on the side of a highway, a collection of old theme park attractions as mismatched as the hikers that can be found inside, or under the trees, napping away the heat of the day. Most people come to Hikertown as a refuge and a place to ready themselves for the most exposed part of the desert.
Leaving Hikertown. Ready to take on?
Leaving Hikertown.
And so, at 7 p.m. that night, that's exactly what we did. Hiking through the night and taking long siestas throughout the days.
So we are currently in Tehachapi, and I thought I would show you what the reality of a town day looks like. So we're back on trail after our first zero in Tehachapi. It's quite a big climb out of Tehachapi, and today we've been blessed with the quickest day on the PCT so far. And it was icy. I fell asleep last night on an ant's nest, and I woke up because I was having a dream that I fell on a cactus and my hands were like all pricked, and it was actually that I was getting bitten by ants on my hands.
My kids only go to school and come home and smell. I'm like, what'd you guys do?
The end of the desert edged closer, and along with the excitement to not constantly be sweating through our clothes, an anxiousness began to build for what lay ahead.
We've just passed 700-mile marker and made it to the road, which means if we walk just under a mile up this road, we will make it to Kennedy Meadows and be officially done with Southern California. Hey guys, what do we think of the desert?
Fuck the desert.
Fuck the desert.
Oh, enjoy those last meters.
Welcome to Kennedy Meadows community. Please slow down.
There's a giddiness. This is the place you've dreamt of for 2 months. This is the portal to a new version of the trail. A new version of you.
We've just had our 0 in Kennedy Meadows. It's the next morning and we are heading out to start the next section of the PCT, the Sierra Nevada. Let's climb some mountains. First morning waking up in the Sierras. It is definitely cold. We don't feel like we're in the desert anymore, that's for sure. Time for some brekkie.
The Sierra Nevada is always talked about as the most beautiful part of the PCT, and it is the only place that could possibly exceed that reputation. The bonds that you have formed early on become stronger as you are forced to rely on one another for safety now. This section of trail shattered any notion I had of my own limits and forced me to be introduced to parts of myself I had never met. There's a kind of exhale. You're no longer racing against the heat or for water, not hoping you might be accepted by other hikers, because you've learned that they're all just as lost as you. Shared meals and conversations get longer as you try to take in all the beauty this place has to offer.
It is 1 a.m. and we've just woken up to start summiting Mount Whitney for sunrise. Let's get it. Coming down off of Whitney, and that would have to be the best morning of my life so far. From Forester's Pass. For some reason my face is super puffy this morning. I think maybe because we slept at such high elevation. We didn't get cold though, which was awesome. And we've woken up to the most amazing sunrise. And now to climb this thing.
Often when approaching a pass, we would start to worry that it looked steep and long, and that our legs would give out before we reached the top. But there's this funny phenomenon. I couldn't say whether it's that a pass is rarely as big as it looks. Perhaps we had grown stronger than we thought. Or maybe it was simply the reward of reaching the top and entering into a new, incredible snow-covered valley.
Highest point on the PCT! Woo!
But they rarely felt as brutal as we anticipated, and we began to crave the rush of pushing over as many as we could in one day. Remember when I said our appetites were taking a while to kick in? Well, by now we were experiencing full-blown hiker hunger. And after a severely underestimated resupply from Kennedy Meadows, Bishop was the perfect place to top up our food. We had developed a routine throughout the desert. The basic tasks were becoming habit. But things were different now. We were carrying up to 6 days of food at a time, as well as bear cans, climbing 2 passes a day and crossing rivers like we had never seen before. By this point, I was still in a lot of physical pain. My trail legs were nowhere to be seen, and battling against my body every day was starting to take a toll on me. It was in the Sierra that I made 3 new, unwelcomed acquaintances: altitude, asthma, and anxiety. Each fed the other and did their best to stop me from reaching Canada.
Good morning from Muir Pass. Bit sketchy. Lots of river crossings and lots of long snow traverses.
The thing about being in a place as beautiful as the Sierra is that you are overcome by guilt when you don't take every opportunity to soak it in. It's a paradox. The beauty is what makes it so hard. It's hard so you forget to take in the beauty. But in those moments you do. You forget it was hard at all.
G'day! We're running for the bus to Mammoth. It's meant to leave in 2 minutes. There it is. We made it!
In Mammoth, we parted ways with our giant trail family and ran into some old friends. This new little group would hike the rest of California together and continue to see each other right until the last day. But the friends you make on trail aren't all hikers. In Yosemite, some of the most generous people gave us rides and even let us stay in their tent site. The kindness of these complete strangers still amazes me and is something I am sure to remember forever.
Wait, which one's the accelerator? Which one's the brake?
So our hitch has just decided to go in and find her camp spot, which means that we are driving her car. It's currently 2:30 in the day and we're starving, but mosquitoes, as you can see, are so bad but we can't stop to eat. So we're dressed head to toe in rain gear.
And so, as quickly as it began, the Sierra came to an end. A moment in time stamped with nostalgia before it was even over. A distant memory we hadn't even finished making. And as we climbed up and over Sonora Pass and ran all the way down to Kennedy Meadows North, we allowed ourselves to feel proud and hungry. And of course relieved because it was finally time to say goodbye to our bear cans.
Time to say goodbye to this one.
Leaving Kennedy Meadows North as a group, we took what we crowned the Mountaineers route, and was actually us losing the trail and climbing vertical for about a mile. The change was clear. The mountains grew more jagged and red. The wildflowers took over every spare inch of earth. And the trail, now more accessible by road, provided some of the most amazing trail magic we had seen.
Thank you so much.
At the end of this epic stretch, it seemed only fitting to take a well-earned zero in
South Lake Tahoe, baby.
Woo!
We quickly cleared our chores and resupplied our food before relaxing by the lake with some of the others who had caught up from the desert. Whilst big towns offer the luxury of more food options at cheaper accommodation, they are notoriously hard to get around. And if there is one thing a hiker does not want to do on a town day, it's walk. South Lake Tahoe, though, was our favourite place yet.
Just scooting back to the trailhead.
Because it had electric scooters.
We have made it down to Donna Ranch and are on our way to pick up our free 40-ounce beer.
We were lucky to make it out of Donna Ranch in one piece. But after one too many frozen margaritas, we were back in the groove. Northern California is a string of strange, barely towns. Places like Belden, which is made up of just one lodge, or Bucks Lake, a small holiday town where we saw our waitress from the pub at the community firefighters breakfast the next day. We were practiced, trashy hitchhikers by now. We didn't care if a clown and a man in a top hat pulled up in a bus. We would stick our heads in the window and ask them for a ride, whether to the nearest town to top up our supplies, or back to trail where we had left off to continue walking. The thing about trail angels is that some of them know about the trail and volunteer their time because of experience, but many of them are just kind, normal people who want to help. We're invincible. There's this notorious thing called the NorCal Blues. Many hikers experience a bout of negativity after having walked over 1,300 miles and still not having seen the end of California. But by now, being on trail feels as normal as any life you might have had back home. And so, just as in normal life, it ebbs and flows.
Holy crap. Good morning. We're in another fire affected area this morning. As you can see, we're still in the burn zone. Day 3 of non-stop blowdowns. Morale is low. Today's a hard day. I feel like my body's screaming at me to stop. I've been having issues with my feet on my knees since the beginning. And I've just started having issues with my shoulder. It's hard because it's like today, the physical injuries start to affect you mentally as well. And you start to think that you're not strong enough or not fast enough. But we'll be fine. Road walking into Syad Valley. It's the last town stop in NorCal.
In Syad Valley, we were lucky enough to meet a great guy named Doug. He invited us to come stay in his yurts and sit by the river. NorCal had consisted of the most high mileage days, and whilst we were exhausted, Oregon was only just around the corner and would supposedly be much flatter and easier. We also knew that Oregon would be where we had to say goodbye to half the group.
We are approaching the Oregon border in T-1 mile.
The Oregon border is a strange one. You pass the sign and trail register in the middle of nowhere and continue to walk through the same terrain for a couple of days. It's as if nothing has changed, and in many ways it hasn't. The mornings start around 5, packing away our homes into small packs, walking through the day, somewhere in the range of 30 to 35 miles, to get into camp just before dark, eat our cold rice or couscous, sleep, and start all over again the next day.
What are we doing?
Walking sober.
What's happened?
I got my ankle.
The rumours were true. Oregon was mostly flat, and we moved through it far quicker than we had anticipated. However, that could also be credited to the insane amounts of mutant mosquitoes that were hot on our tails at all times. Cowboy camping, like we had done up until now, was non-existent, and tents were a must.
Of Crater Lake, which is a volcano, and just over here in the lake is another volcano. Thanks so much for the ride, guys, that's really helpful. Highest point on the PCT in Oregon.
It's flat.
So we decided last minute to take an alternate today down to Whitefish Horse Camp, and the lovely Jim and Jerry have so kindly given us a soda and an apple and a lovely place to stay for the night. We've just walked through 10 miles of the worst mosquitoes of our lives, but we have made it to Shelter Cove. Beautiful weather here in Oregon. Shall we go for a hike?
We were extremely lucky to make it through most all of Oregon. Days after we left Crescent Lake and Shelter Cove, much of the area caught fire after a lightning storm, and hikers were no longer able to pass.
Today has to be the worst mosquitoes we've had so far on the trail. They are all over my hands, all over my DEET covered legs, and all over my rain jacket, just biting me straight through it. We've just been told that the trail just behind us has been closed for a fire, and there's also a fire burning just in front of us, so that may get closed too. It's 8:30 a.m. and the tent's been set up. The mosquitoes are just so bad.
This is worse than biting a nail file and ripping it out. I'd rather do that, honestly.
This is where we had to get off trail to hitch around some areas which were closed for fires. So we took that as an opportunity, with some help from Bill and Ben, for a side quest.
We've caught the bus and we've made it to Portland. A couple of days in the big smoke before we get back on trail and push through into Washington.
Stepping foot into Portland, we felt like aliens. We hadn't realised how much we'd adapted to the trail, and our senses were under attack from the sound of traffic and sirens and the smell of detergent and perfume. Portland in particular was humbling. Whilst we had chosen our homelessness for the past 3 months, there are many people here who don't have that choice. And whilst I was treated to gourmet food and a massage for my birthday, it was a stark reminder of just how lucky we were. As much as we loved the comfortable beds and warm showers, the trail was calling. And so after a quick stop at the Timberline Lodge, yes, the one from The Shining, we kept moving.
Slowly in time, like a pencil drawn line, erases too close behind, so it starts. Are you asleep, my friend? 'Cause I ain't been awake as much as I had thought.
Oregon is the shortest section of the trail, but due to the Lion's Head fire closure, which we'd had to hitch around, it was even shorter this year. Hikers were coming to the end of Oregon from all parts of the trail due to wildfires. The trail got busy, and we found ourselves hiking later and later to find a place to camp that wasn't crowded. But it also meant we met a bunch more interesting people. A lot of the trail here traces through dense forest. It isn't the most exciting walking, but that meant that when we found a view or a waterfall we weren't expecting, it was even more awesome.
Summertime, like a pencil drawn line, erases too close behind, so it starts. Summertime, like a pencil drawn line, erases too close behind, so it starts. Ever's not right. Ever's not right.
Last day of Oregon! Woo!
Cascade Locks was bursting with hikers by the time we got there. The line to the ice cream shop was more hiker trash than tourist, and the campground hummed with excitement from Washington just across the bridge.
Goodbye, Oregon. Hello, Washington.
The Bridge of the Gods. You've seen it in the books and the videos. You know that you'll eventually have to cross it to make it into the state of Washington. But now that we were here, it seemed impossible that it could be real. That we could have made it to walk along the steel the same way we had walked through 2 whole states to get here.
So too late. No need to say, how will I call?
Washington welcomed us with a breakfast of wild berries, a sign of the unbelievable nature to come, and a welcome change from the disgusting amounts of junk food we consumed in town, and the ramen and mashed potatoes we prepared on the trail with cold water in a jar.
So this morning I was joking about showing up and there being trail magic with frozen margs. Well, we just got to trail magic. It's not a marg, but it's frozen. Good morning from our first rainy Washington morning. It's kind of nice to be out in the weather today. We've had nothing but heat for months now, so I'm kind of enjoying it.
I was kind of enjoying all of it. Washington was more than I could have ever expected. The mountains and glaciers, the waterfalls, wildlife everywhere. I also felt like this because after almost 3.5 months, I had finally gotten my trail legs. And whilst I was kicking myself that it hadn't happened sooner, knowing that I could enjoy Washington, truly enjoy Washington, made me sad to think that this wouldn't be my life anymore.
How will I call without your word? How will I call without your heartbeat? How will I call without your love? How will I call without your word? How will I call
day 6 of Washington. We're headed into White's Pass to pick up our resupply box.
Whilst up until now we have been resupplying our food at grocery stores in towns along the trail, Washington had only a few stops, many of them at ski lodges where food wasn't easily found. So we had sent ourselves boxes in the mail containing everything we would need for the next few days. Trail life was normal life. In fact, we had more than we needed, and many items from our packs were sent home in the mail to lighten our loads. Making it to Snoqualmie, we were welcomed by the generous volunteers at the Alpine Club, who allowed us to stay in the bunkhouse, wash our clothes, and eat a delicious home-cooked meal. As much as we would have loved to stay, Canada was practically in our sights by now, and as we looked out at the horizon, we asked each other if we thought the mountains were American or Canadian.
Good morning from Washington. We've woken up today with less than 250 miles to go, which means that we only have less than 2 weeks of walking left. It's like super exciting to think that I don't have to wake up at 5 o'clock every day. I don't have to have sore feet every day, and I can eat normal food again really soon. But it's also super sad. This has sort of become our normal, and it's going to be really weird to not see the people that we've spent the last 4 months with every day. It's so weird. I'm convinced this lake is made of jelly, and you can't tell me otherwise. It's like when you're a kid and your mum would make you like a swimming pool birthday cake. That's what that is.
We decided to stop in a little trail town we'd heard rumours about. Leavenworth is completely Bavarian themed, down to the lettering on the McDonald's and the German street names. We celebrated how far we had come with beers, live music, pretzels, and bratwursts. This is where the scheming began for the next big adventure. You would think after months of torturing our bodies, eating beige food and sleeping on the ground, we would have had enough. But the itching begins before the scratching is over, and we dreaded having to say goodbye. But we did. To Leavenworth at least.
is nice and early because it is our last town gate today.
I'm tired, but I like it. I'm a long way from home. But the further in I go, the closer I will be to out in the open. Out in the open. Out in the open. Out in the open. Where you're wide open land. Where you're wide open land.
Back on trail after our very last town stop in thru-hiking. We ate way too much food from the bakery. We have one very small issue, and that is that the bus driver told us on the way here that a big storm washed away the road to Hart's Pass last night, which is where we're meant to finish the trail.
In hindsight, we were super lucky to leave thru-hiking when we did. Many hikers after us weren't able to make it to the border with wildfires growing around it. So whilst we raced through the last 100 miles of the trail, we felt gratitude and excitement and uncertainty. My heart ached. A balloon begins inflating inside of you, filled with love for all the places you have been, the people who have gotten you to this point. I struggled to imagine the person I was before I left home, and I wondered if I'd changed.
Good morning from the last morning of the PCT. How it's already here, I have no idea. And there are a lot of times I thought we'd never get here. But here we are. 24 miles to the terminus. And I can officially say I walked to Canada. Congratulations!
Because Canada was yet to open its border to foot traffic, we saw all the people we had walked alongside as they retraced their footsteps back from the border.
We are 6 miles from the terminus, and in true Washington fashion, we've got a bit of rain for our farewell.
You can't explain the feeling.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir, where are you headed?
Oh, just to Canada.
You guys?
That heads it off.
Let's go to Canada!
Before you know it, you're running. It's a pull like nothing you've felt. One from in front, where the terminus is only feet away, and the other from behind, begging you not to let the adventure end.
My God! Holy shit! Yeah, I'll get one next to it.
And then it's done. Your footprints are washed away in the rain. All that remains is your name in a book below the place you've longed for and struggled towards for months. And though it's changed who you will be forever, the trail won't remember you. Because after all, you were only ever just passing through.